Escapism is basically just a synonym for temporary relief. And with temporary relief, you never find a true solution to the problems of human life and the facts of life. All that you're doing is postponing your suffering to tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, repeating the same vicious cycles. And that's why history continues repeating itself. Not because the social circumstances are repeating itself, but because the mind and the psychological cycles which have created the society, which has created our system of economics, politics, and everything that is fueling that, it is the mind which has been repeating itself in cycles. So that is the great deception which unfortunately this humanity has fallen into, that we believe that just by exclusively focusing our attention on the external, that we can bring enduring transformation to humanity.
I think if you...
And it's really a very complex problem, because we've evolved through centuries to externalize our attention. That has been part of our survival for centuries. So if this is so compulsive for you to externalize your attention in such a way, then to internalize your attention, it seems like it's a possibility that is light years apart. Because basically this is the reason why you have become forgetful of your true nature. That most of the time you're aware of the objects of your experience, but not the nature of the observer. That intelligence which sees through the eyes, hears through the ears, smells through the nose, tastes through the tongue. The seer behind the thought. But no, you're usually aware of the objects of your experience. So that's precisely the work of meditation, which is exactly why it's not necessarily going to lead to enlightenment, but it can be a stepping stone, where if you go through a process of bringing the activity of the mind to a stillness, so all the objects of your experience have been removed, and then therefore the nature of the observer remains shining forth in your perception. So that's really the rationale behind why we're bringing the mind to its stillness. And of course, part of this process is you'll find that certain qualities in you naturally start to become cultivated, such as compassion. And that is the basis of compassion, of true, genuine, the type of compassion of a Buddha. I shouldn't say there's non-genuine compassion. There's many degrees of compassion, just like there's many degrees of love, there's many degrees of wisdom, there's many degrees of insight. I would say there's even many degrees of so-called enlightenment. But ultimately, this is the compassion that comes in the realization of a Buddha. When you realize that your own nature and the nature of the other are inseparable. There is no other. There's no self and there is no other. There's just a process of seeing. There's a process of observation. But there is really no observer and observed that's involved in this process. That is an end of dualism.
These concepts are very hard to grasp, especially for someone who hasn't been on the spiritual path. So I feel like concentration and meditation will open your mind to understand these concepts better, right? Because before I would start practicing, I would have a very hard time just understanding what you mean by, or I would maybe understand logically, but I wouldn't have like a clear understanding of it.
That's correct, and we don't even have to touch upon something that's esoteric, mystical, or transcendental. Even simple, ordinary things in life are very difficult to communicate. Can you really communicate to somebody else who's never had a taste of, let's say, sugar or water? What is the taste of water? It would be just like I tried to explain to a blind man what is the experience of seeing.